Are we live? I'm live. Okay, well, hey, happy Memorial Day, everybody. Um, hey, you know me, it's really kind of impulsive thing when I come on here live. I don't really uh have a set schedule for this kind of thing. I only do it when I'm in the mood. However, I am thinking that I need to get myself in the mood at perhaps some different hours of the day. Maybe come on here late night sometime or very early in the morning. It's 12:47 here in Pennsylvania, which is Eastern Standard Time. Oh, there's Matilda. Yes, my girl. Yeah, how you doing? How's your day going? Oh, there's Don Thomas the Time Lord. How you doing, bud? Hey, it's going okay. Yeah. Matilda loves the hat. Well, the hat is covering my uh not combed hair today. Usually that's what's going on. When you see me wearing the hat, it's because I simply haven't combed my hair or what's left of my hair. Um RB3, what's up, DVC? Yeah, RB3 and DVC. Yeah. Hey, man. It's like Marvel team up, right? Yeah. RB3 and DVC. Killer book, man. Um, right? um, what can I talk about today? I do have a couple of books to show. I've been really laying low. Marvel 2-in-1. Yeah. I've really been laying low with purchasing stuff for 6 or 8 weeks. Uh, I'm having some pretty expensive renovations and improvements being done to the house. So, until I get all that stuff done, I don't see myself purchasing too much of anything. As you'll see here, this is the books I'm going to show is nothing mind blowing. To me, they're gorgeous things that you know I just couldn't do without. But there's no Hulk 181 here, or New Mutants 98, or Action Comics #1 or anything like that. But anyway. Don says, "Hey, John, do you know anything that can remove blue pen ink from a comic book cover?" No, my brother, unfortunately, uh, I don't think that product has been created yet. Uh, Unfortunately. Holy shit! There's Shannon. Solid 4-string bottom end. Yeah, and actually, Shannon, I was just saying a moment ago that I wanted to maybe do some live streams at some different times, and I actually had you, my man, man, in mind, and I was hoping to be able to catch you at sometime. So I'm so glad you're here, brother, and I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. I see you posted a couple of videos yesterday, and I'll get on them here very, very soon. I'm uh, kind of like you said recently. You're kind of behind in your videos and things like that. Well, so am I. I mean, that's just where I am. I've been so concentrated on what I'm doing with the house and stuff like that. I haven't really paid my usual attention to the comic community. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? So, yeah, I'm glad you're here, Shannon. RB3, Don, Matilda. I'm glad you're here. I know everyone's busy today, so, perhaps, this isn't the ideal time, to do this kind of thing, but, I'm not uh, particularly concerned about all that. Again, I just kind of do these things as I feel I want to do them, and hopefully people will catch them on the rewind, right? Okay, y'all want to see some books? We've got 5 people in here at the moment, and I think we've accounted for all of them. But I will show some books here. I got here. Well, let's just right off the top. I showed this in one of Nick's chats a week or so ago. Yeah, Shannon, you got it, man. You're the man. You are the man. So, yeah, Matilda says, you get busy. Yeah. RB3 says, yeah, Survivor finale has been occupying my time. Well, it certainly occupied my time the other night. I wasn't entirely happy about the outcome, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. Oh, there's Daryl liking the covers. Welcome, brother. Good to see you, man. Thanks for taking some time out of your holiday weekend. But anyway, I don't know how this is going to show. I see massive glare, but it is the Monster of Frankenstein #2. Geez, I had several copies of this kind of blow through my hands over the years. And, just one of those books where you think, I'll be able to pick up a nice cheap copy anytime I like. Well, it's proving not to be so cheap anymore, like most books are nowadays. There seem to be really just kind of overpriced and whatnot. But it's hard to show you the grade here, but it's a really beautiful high grade. I picked up this copy. It was inexpensive and it had beautiful centering, which is kind of tough with this book. So I had been looking at it for a couple of weeks, and this one just happened to crop up. So it's a beautiful thing, right? Mike Plug, and the color scheme is just extraordinary. Really, really beautiful book, right? I just got this here. Let me look at the chat here. There's Lord Tatman. What's up, my lord? What's up? Yeah. Oh, Shannon, that's your favorite cover of the run? Yeah, man, mine too. Right? Yeah. A stunner, Daryl says. Now, this one I got just a couple of days ago. I probably overpaid for it, but the older I get, I don't know. I'm just not in the mood to fuck around too much. If I did overpay, I didn't overpay that much, and it was worth it to me. So, I mean, that's what really matters, right? If it's worth it to me, right? Or if it's worth it to me, if it's worth it to you, that's the important thing. Yes. Tales of Suspense #29. Beautiful, beautiful Jack Kirby cover. again, back in my early eBay days, back around 2000, 2001, I collected a shit ton of these pre-hero marvels, Strange Tales, Journey into Mystery, Tales to Astonish, Tales of Suspense. Um, and I sold them off only a couple of years later in lots. And there have been a couple of books that have haunted me ever since. I did pick up a copy of Tales of Suspense number 26 here recently, and I showed that in a recent video. What the hell was it? It's slabbed, and it's a CGC slab. I think it was 7.5, and I paid a pretty penny for it, but I was like, screw it. I want the book. I want a high grader. It's my favorite cover of the pre-hero books, and this one isn't too far behind as far as my favorite. So this is actually a very nice copy. Again, with the degraded quality of the live stream and all that glare, it may not show particularly well, but it is a beautiful copy. I may have slightly overpaid, but screw it. I wanted the damn thing. I got it back. So there you go. Tales of Suspense number 29. Beautiful Jack Kirby cover. Yes. All right. All right. What's happening in the chat? Daryl's sitting at the table watching YouTube videos. Yeah. Lord Tatman saying hi. People are saying hi. Awesome looking copy, John. Yeah. Oh, I already read that one. Shanessa's favorite cover, that Monster of Frankenstein number 2. Yeah. A stunner. Yeah. Another blazer, right, Shannon? Yeah, bud. You know a blazer when you see one, right? RB3 says, you regret the things you don't buy. As long as you're happy and as long as you feel the price was okay, that's all that matters. And that is a message that has rippled through comic collecting for decades and generations. And I suppose that notion shan't ever change, really. As long as you are happy, as long as you can actually afford the book, and it's not going to prevent you from paying your bills and your rent and your mortgage and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, that's great. So just yeah. I see weird prices for books all the time, and it doesn't faze me too much because I just kind of go, well, that person wanted it, and they were willing to pay that kind of money for it for whatever reason. Now, yeah, there are some misguided purchases out there, but again, that's up to the buyer to kind of learn those lessons the hard way. I mean, perhaps the hard way, well, obviously the hard way is not the pleasant way, but once you learn those lessons, they are lessons well learned. The price of an education, yes. Yeah. Oh, there's Anthony Hoyle. Bud. I don't know if I've ever read that name before, but welcome. My friend, thanks for stopping in. Yeah, regarding that Frankenstein. Yeah, you agree that far too many inconsequential bronze books have bloated prices. Yeah, it's just you know, it's just the way it is nowadays. I try not to concentrate too hard on it, or, you know, I get myself in a bit of a tizzy or whatever. Eric K, the man. How you doing, Eric? Yeah, happy Memorial Day, brother. Yeah. Eric saying hi to everyone. Everyone saying hi to Eric. Yeah. Uh there's Kurt. There's Kurt. Yeah. Joker 68. Not feeling too good today. And his mother is visiting. That'll perk you up, man. Right? Yeah, man. Have a good day, brother. Yeah, have a good day. Uh, um, everyone saying hi to Kurt and feel better. Yep, doing all right. Doing good. Okay. You want another book? Here, I'll give you an actual book. A book. Right? Hardback book. Yeah. Finally got it. Batman, The Dark Knight, The Master Race. Um, was very excited, of course, when this thing was being published in the individual issues. But I knew even at the time that I would be waiting until the collected edition finally came out. And I know it's been out for a while, probably maybe even a year. But I finally got a copy. I just pulled the shrink wrap off of the thing here a few minutes ago. But I'm very happy to have it. I know it will never live up to the magnificence of the original tale, of which I was there for, and which remains my favorite comic saga of all time. But it certainly has to be better than The Dark Knight Strikes Again. I remember back in, what was that, 2001, when The Dark Knight Strikes Again came out. Boy, I was so disappointed. Oh my goodness. But anyway, so I'll be launching into this here in the next few days for sure. All right, who else is out there? Yeah. Everyone saying hello. Have a great day. Keep it knocking, but I can't come in. Yeah. Yeah, Shannon says on the subject of the Frankenstein series, he loves the Ploogs, but the Val Mayrick art in some of the later issues is killer too. Hey, I won't dispute you there, brother. I'm with you 100% on that. Yeah. Eric says he loves that series, Shannon, but a little pricey. Hey, I agree, man. Daryl says, come in. All right. I'll do that. Yeah. Yeah, I got, yes. I'm happy I got the Dark Knight book, Shannon. I mean, I knew it was going to have to be done. And it's just a matter of me putting my thoughts together and, you know, pulling myself away from sitting out back and staring into space, just get in here and go on Amazon and, do my thing. Right. Yep. That and supernatural thrillers, which you did a video spotlight on. Eric is speaking to Shannon. Yeah. Shannon did that video a few months ago, showcasing the run of supernatural thrillers with the Living Mummy and all that. Oh, hell yeah. Goodness gracious. Eric says, John, question: what is your favorite horror title, DC and Marvel? Ooh, wow. Off the top of my head and without thinking about it too much, I mean, without kind of trying to rack up stories and different columns and stuff, I would have to say the House of Mystery. House of Mystery would be my favorite horror title, Marvel and DC. And a lot of that stuff, I don't want to say a lot of it because uh, I feel that I came in late on it. And what I mean by that is I only started buying horror books on just even a casual basis when they were in the 20-cent era and getting into the 25-cent era. I realize now that that wasn't particularly late, but I will always feel that I was late to the party on that. But yeah, House of Mystery. I will go with House of Mystery, Eric. Yeah, Shannon was fortunate to pick up the Frankenstein and the supernatural thrillers years ago on the cheap. Yeah, Shannon, stuff. Don't you miss those days, brother, when stuff was cheap and just reasonably priced, was accessible to all collectors? Right. Um, Eric says, let's keep it late silver, early bronze. I suppose that's a follow up. So I hit that right. House of Mystery. Yeah, House of Mystery. That's my favorite. Mm. Daryl asked, "Do they make Golden Age bags and boards?" They sure do, bro. And you can. There's several manufacturers, and goodness gracious, yeah. Shannon says, "Yeah, that's a tough question, right? Yeah, that is kind of tough." And again, um, my answer might even change if I could sit down and do kind of an analytical classic story, and yeah, I'm too old and lazy, and my brain doesn't work that way anymore. So I'm sticking with it again. House of Mystery. There you go. Bonjour, Doc. There's Anthony Hoyle again. Did you read Starlin and Wrightson's Batman the Cult? I did. I bought it off the rack. Um, and I have to say that it didn't leave much of an impression on me. Um, I'm really going back a ways to kind of remember why. All right, I would have to say that in remembering what it was, I would have to say that I was disappointed in Bernie Wrightson's art. Now I know, right? I almost feel like I should put a gun to my own head and say that's just blasphemous, and you're no longer allowed to be alive in the comic book community. But um, I read it, and again, it left no real impression on me. Now, if I would revisit it now, what is it, 20, 25 years later, I might feel differently about it, but that was my impression, or indeed my non-impression of it uh, at the time. Oh, Matilda's got to go. Bye bye, young lady. It's always a treat to have you here, and I'm honored and humbled that you always stop in. So thanks, thank you. I know you're not in the U.S., but happy Memorial Day nonetheless. Eric K says, as a kid, it was all about superheroes. I appreciate the horror and suspense books now as an adult. When I was a very young kid, and when I say very young kid, I mean a kid that hadn't even started school yet, and into my early years of school, first grade, second grade. And again, I think I was probably in third grade, picked up some horror books. And those first things were, I don't, my Titanic memory fails me on this, but I don't particularly recall what the first horror books were that I picked up, but I know there was Swamp Thing in there, and uh, the DC books, House of Mystery, House of Secrets, The Unexpected. Those are the very first, dipping my tiny little toe into the waters of the horror genre. As a very, very young child, I was, I don't know what, 7 years old, 8 years old, something like that, 9 years old, however old. Um, Shannon says, I bought loads of silver and bronze lots from J&S Comics. J&S. Yeah, man, they've been around for a while. Oh, my goodness. And from the Comic Buyer's Guide in the late 80s and early 90s. Yeah. Shannon, our collecting lives, our collecting experiences uh, closely mirrors the others. And yeah, I'm right there with you. J&S Comics, buying from the Comic Buyer's Guide in the late 80s and the early 90s. Good Lord. Mirror Image RB3 says, blasphemous. Yeah. Well, I've been known, I'm, I'm known for my blasphemy a little bit, man. Um, Shannon says he enjoyed Batman the Cult, but it didn't touch the original Return of the Dark Knight. Um, and I'm completely blanking on the Return of the Dark Knight. Um, and Eric says, another question for you, John, and everyone else here. What is the longest time you took away from collecting comics, if at all? Any breaks for an extended period of time? Good Lord, yeah. The 1990s were pretty much a write off for me. That is when I began selling uh, the literally thousands of books that I had rounded up in the 70s and the 80s. And I was kind of turned off by a lot of the practices of the publishers in the 90s. You started getting into that whole cover thing. It's not like cover variants are today, but it was a cover something or other. You had the chromiums, and you had the lenticulars, and you had and not to mention, like, what I really noticed about comics in the 90s was the art began to suck ass. And hey, Eric Larson? What? Todd McFarlane? Well, I, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit just even speaking those names. But, and I don't mean here, yeah, I don't mean to, get anybody all upset, any Eric Larson fans or, um, McFarlane fans or whatever, but that's just the way I grew up in the era of Bernie Wrightson, Gil Kane, John Buscema. So if you want to throw an Eric Larson at me, give me a break, man. Are you kidding me? Uh, you know, so and plus my life was changing as I got into the 90s. I was pushing 30 and my priorities kind of lay elsewhere. I was more into traveling and was thinking about buying a house, and I just stopped spending money on new comics. Oh, I would stop into my local bookstore and spin the rack or look at the shelves once a month or something, and I would buy the occasional Batman cover that I liked or a Superman cover that I liked. But yeah, the 90s were all about selling for me. And then, of course, we got into eBay. And well, that I don't want to get into all that. But to answer your question, Eric, the long way around, it was the 1990s that was my big break from collecting. Anybody else out there want to chime in on that? Eric says, for me, it was 10 years. Got back into it last year when you turned 50. Yeah, that sounds about right. It. I think, some people reach a certain age and, excuse me, and suddenly something begins to tug at you, you know, RB3 says it was a 20-year period. Raise a daughter and set up the college fund. Yeah. Oh, there's Stephen Oates. How you doing, Stephen? And Eric says he agrees with my comments on the 90s comics. Yeah, hitting the nail on the head. That was just the way I felt about it. Again, as a young man that was closing in on my 30s and stuff, and had been collecting for 20 years already or whatever, just didn't. There was just no comparison. Going to the newsstand as a kid every month and seeing, uh, again, Jim Starlin, Gil Kane, Bernie Wrightson, John Buscema, Gene Colan. And then all of a sudden I won't even mention the names again, but it just didn't, it just wasn't my thing anymore. Yui's Comics is here. He quit in the mid 90s. Yep. I was there with you, bud. Daryl says, for 6 years after my mom threw my comics out in the trash in 1971. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. I hope you've reconciled all that with your mother by now, but yeah. Shannon says, I've taken a break from new comics for extended periods in the 90s and recently, but always kind of kept toe in the water as far as silver and bronze stuff. Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, and Shannon agrees. The 90s were, for the most part, a drag, comic-wise. And again, yeah, Shannon, for it's a generational thing. For the kids of the 90s, I'm sure comics were fucking great, right? But for guys that we were young adults, pushing 30 years old or whatever, not so good, not so refreshing, not so wondrous, and especially, coming off of things like Watchmen and The Dark Knight. Yeah, now we have these like incredible yardsticks, milestones, touchstones to kind of measure against. Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, Frank Miller's Daredevil. You really want to try and put an argument up that says anything in the fucking 90s was even remotely as great as any of that stuff? I mean, go ahead, do your thing, man, but good luck. Wait. I put my sign aside a little too early, right? Okay, hey, here, one more quick book. And again, it is a book. It's a book. It's a big book, too. Holy shit. This, right? Big, thick, hardback. The Weird World of Eerie Publications. Eerie Publications were the EC comics of the 1960s and 70s. I've already made videos on the topic, and just the absolute insanity that was going on with Eerie Publications at the time. I wish I would have had this book 35 or 40 years ago. This is exactly the information that I wanted, and because it's a fairly brief history, but kind of tangled and complicated history. But this thing has already begun to reveal information to me that I have wondered about for decades. So just completely into this thing. It's just got everything about the Eerie publications, including a complete cover gallery. At the end of the book here, I don't know if here's just an example. It does offer a complete cover gallery of the titles. So there you go. Here's my final book of my haul for this video. Yeah, big, hefty, wonderful reading. All right. 9 people viewing. We're 38 minutes in. I'm getting behind on my chat here. Yeah, Daryl restarted in 1977 again after his mom threw out all his comics in 1971. Tech 31 Kid, how you doing, bud? How you doing, man? He had a short break from the summer of 87 to summer of 93. That sounds a little reasonable. That's what actually around 87 to 88 is when I really got into buying stuff from the Comic Buyer's Guide and the Koch Warehouse and all that stuff I've talked about innumerable times in my videos. Yeah. Oh, Koch Warehouse. I was raiding that thing, man. Raiding those wholesale prices from the Comic Buyer's Guide. Good Lord, yes. Eric says, even though I collected into the 90s and early 2000s, it was always silver and bronze. Yeah, and today it's mostly bronze. Nothing past the early 80s. Yeah, I got you, bud. I got you, man. And Shannon says, yeah, he agrees. The late 60s through the early 80s is the sweet spot. It's a sweet spot for me, too. I'm right there with you, fellas. Huey says, I was a kid in the late 80s and early 90s, so all I collected were issues that were new. Since I just started collecting again, I'm trying to fill my collection with more silver and bronze. Well, you're preaching to the choir here with the silver and bronze. I won't shy away from talking about my love of that era and claiming the superiority of product of that era. Plus, if you look at it from a modern standpoint, with so much emphasis placed on future investment and dollar amounts and stuff like that, you're not going to go wrong with silver and bronze, particularly silver. Good Lord. Yeah. Yeah. Good era to collect, Huey. So says Eric. Yes, indeed. Stephen Oates, growing up in the 60s, collected from the actual newsstands in New York City. Steve Ditko, Gene Colan, etc. Yep. I remember I was barely walking in the 60s, but I remember choosing comic books from the rack, and my dad bringing home other books for me, other comic books for me, and stuff like that. So yeah. Hmm. Shannon says, "Hey John, was the Erie book an Amazon purchase?" Yes, it was actually. Shannon, very reasonable. I forget what I paid for it, but it was like $15 shipped or something like that. It was really cheap, worth every penny. Good Lord. Uh, Anthony Hoyle says, "Wow, Stephen, you've got to have some great books. New York City was the center of the comic universe back then." Yes, indeed, it was. Yes, indeed. Uh, Tech 31 kid says, "Hey, John. Yeah, hey, bud. How you doing, man?" Um, but Steven says, "Yeah, but he lost a lot of comics between college and moving. Sucks, bud." Shannon says, "Yeah, Stephen would have loved to have been in New York City at that period and picked up all those great books." Yeah, there is something about, I've had this thing about New York City too since I've been a comic reader. And actually, when my family came from Mississippi to Pennsylvania in 1972, um, my mother's sister Edna had met a man, uh, an Italian immigrant. Well, actually, he's from Sicily. Who he's a Sicilian who came to New York City via Ellis Island and all that when he was a child, and he was in the army when he met my mother's sister Edna. They got married, and when we first came to Pennsylvania, it wasn't too long after we had been in Pennsylvania that we went. My family drove to New York City, and I was just a little kid. I was like 8 years old or something. And it was kind of an eye-opening experience. But I've always had this thing about New York City. Plus, my cousins that were the children of my aunt Edna and my uncle Johnny Calandrino. The name was Calandrino. My cousins were so super freaking cool. Particularly my cousin Johnny Calandrino Jr., who was actually killed in a car accident down in San Antonio about 10 years ago. But he was just so freaking cool. Number one, he looked exactly like Al Pacino in Serpico, right? And I mean, he was actually better looking than Al Pacino in Serpico. And he talked with this kind of New York accent and everything, and he had like the leather jacket that came right down to the waist, and like they had my cousins in New York from New York had this New York style that a little kid like me, I just thought my New York City cousins were cool as hell, and they were. That wasn't my imagination. They were cool as hell. So yeah, but I've always had a fascination with New York, uh, just strictly from a comic book perspective, and knowing that the bullpen, Marvel's bullpen, was in New York City. That is just the coolest damn thing ever. And it was so exotic. As a child, to think of New York City like that. Yeah. Tech 31 kid says remembers the Koch warehouse. It was in Brooklyn. Yeah, it was in Brooklyn. Um, Shannon says Tech 31 kid. I agree about Comic Buyer's Guide. Always loved getting that in the mail every week. Yeah, man. I had a brief subscription to it. Um, for the most part, I picked them up at my LCS, but I did have, I think, probably a year's subscription to it. And not so coincidentally, that year was in my really sweet spot of buying the wholesale books from the Koch warehouse. Yeah, Comic Buyer's Guide. That's where you got your information, man. That's where I first heard about Frank Miller doing the Batman, and all kinds of information. Good Lord. Nick, ETA Nick is here. How you doing, bud? Happy Memorial Day, my man. Yeah, everyone's saying hi to Nick. Yeah. Anthony Hoyle says the Koch is currently on the corner of 2nd Avenue and 41st Street in Brooklyn. He goes there regularly. Yep, indeed. Yeah, man. I would too if I were in New York. Uh, Stephen Oates says, my people came to New York during the Great Migration from Jim Crow South in the late 30s. Landed in Harlem, and it was great. Yeah, man, there you go. That actually was uh, a fabulous and fascinating time for New York City and indeed Harlem. Uh, I know a bit about that, and that was a terrific time. I wish I could have been there myself, man. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, um. Anyway, is that it? I'm pushing 48 minutes. Uh, I feel like I should kind of let everybody off the hook here and go back to their Memorial Day. Um, so thank you all. Thank you all for stopping in. I know it was short on the books. Yeah, Nick, you're not doing much there. Well, I'm not really doing much here either. Um, but I suppose I'm gonna go out here and take Petey for a walk, and it's kind of a really nice, cool day out there. It's about 70 degrees or so. Really lovely day, kind of cloudy. Uh, Probably just go and sit out back and drink a couple of beers, and it's kind of gonna be my day. But I don't know. Here, Nick, Nick, I want to show you this book. I showed it a little earlier in the stream, but I did pick up that Tales of Suspense 29 that I had mentioned here to you about a week or so ago. Yeah, I got her. Could use a good pressing, but otherwise, I'm very happy with the purchase. Classic Jack Kirby cover, just tremendous stuff. Got really nice pages. Excuse me, not nice off-white pages. Very clean. Great looking book, eh? So there you go, bud. That one's for you. And all right. Stephen Oates says, yeah, the transition from catalogs and computer for comic ordering is so different. Yeah, just night and day. Night and day. Night and day. Yeah. Daryl, hey, nice seeing you too, brother. See you later, man. Next time, perhaps. Nick says, nice, John, nice, yeah. Send it to you for a press. All right, bud, I'll do that. Yes, indeed. Shannon says, was happy I could be here today with me and everyone else. Yeah, man. Headed out for some time with the wife. Happy Memorial Day, Shannon. Yes, indeed. Nick says, I got a doozy of an item as well. Was thinking of doing a live unboxing, but was too lazy. Yeah, man. We're getting lazy in our middle age, brother. But he'll bring it to the Wednesday night chat. All right, man. It's a date. Yeah. All right, that's it. Like Nick just said, happy Memorial Day, everyone. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Does my heart good to just sit and chat with you all a while. So we'll see you here. If not before, well, hell, it's Monday already. So I suppose the next time we'll see you will be on Nick's Wednesday night chat. Yes? All right. See you later. Bye-bye.